I assume, are we back? Do we have people here? 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 4, 1,000. Okay, so that's a 6-second lag. Fuck, shit, that's better. Okay. So, IMM. So the IMM draw size, right? So let's say you want a 3 millimeters. Hold on, let's get down to our brushes down here. So we have a stone, right? And that's the IMM brush I'm going to use. So now I'm going to, are we active? Yeah. Hold on, let's. Okay. So we have a little guy here, right? Boom. Drag it out. And there's our stone, right? And as you can see, you kind of, well, what's our stone size? Well, I want my stone size to be, here, let's make it insert a little more. I want my stone size to be 3 millimeters. Set IMM draw size. And so now, but you're like, well, look, they drag out. What size do I want? So as you're holding it, hold down Control. And that will lock that to that size every time. Make sense? Oh, I need some 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter stones. Set IMM draw size. So IMM draw size allows you to select what size you want to do it and just tap Control and it'll always come out to that size. All right, that is the layer. Fuck, I don't have it. Hold on. Resources, ZBrush plugins. Layer brush depth. Let's download it. We'll download quick scaler. I don't think you're all going to be using that much at this point. And turntabler just allows you to make turntables, right?
This is a brand new MacBook Pro and our prototype's for the first drop test. Here we go.
No, I don't have a speaker connected.
3, 2, 1. Perfectly fine. No scratches, no damage, no wear and tear at all. This
This is a quick video covering the functionality of the Turntabler plugin for ZBrush. After you have the plugin downloaded and installed, just simply launch ZBrush. Then you can navigate into the Z plugin palette at the top here, and the Turntabler plugin will be located here. I'm just going to dock this to the side quick. So I'm going to come to the top here. I'm going to click on this icon and then just drag it over to the right tray. So now my Z plugin tab is now in the tray here. Now the Turntabler plugin will allow you to create turntable image sequences of your model with different passes. Now the passes that can be created are AO, BPR, depth, lights, masking, preview, shadow, and subsurface scattering.
You're just going to push the damn go, and it's going to make a turntable for you.
Is position your model. Now image it. Now,
and it literally just goes through and makes the damn turntable.
The Turntabler plugin for ZBrush. The plugin
You
can
push
be
go,
downloaded
then it
from the
spins.
Download Center on pixelogic.com.
Right.
I hope that helps.
And it'll generate a little short movie. Oh, look, I'm coming up next. How convenient. All right. So, let's get you back here. Can you not hear me? Okay. All right. So really, hold on. Do we have Buddha here? Okay, Wacom Q&A Dropbox to Tony. All right, so import this PC, users, Wacom Q&A. Where was it again? Dropbox to Tony. Buddha. Medicine Buddha, to be specific. All right, hold on. Duplicate. We need a solid. That one was our. What in the hell? Well, there's the Buddha's got wood. How did that happen? Okay, that's funnier than hell. Why is this here? going to be one of those days. Just in case we don't get any more stupid crap. Move elastic, turn symmetry on. Inflate. W. Remesh by Dynamesh. Boop. Trim front. So now that should be just a shell, right? Okay. Buddha. Dynamesh. We need to make this a shell, right? So we come up to Dynamesh Master. And we want this to be, let's say, 3 millimeters. This is pretty big, right? Yeah, 70 mil tall, so 3 mil is fine. 3 millimeters. So you come in here, and we go, I want this to be, if I'm not mistaken, these are millimeters, so if we go 3, push enter, if I'm not mistaken, that is 3 millimeters. So now, do we have to do anything? Best visible. Yeah, okay. So thickness, 3, create shell. Oh. Like I said, Dynameshing in Gizmo does not leave the Dynamesh active. If we use this Dynamesh, it should leave Dynamesh active. So now we come over here, create shell. Okay. Here. Well, you know what? Let's do this. We're going to make this just low Dynamesh. I'm making this obviously low res, right? Because remember it said it'll take a long time. So 3 millimeters, create shell. And so now it is going to go through its process and create a 3 millimeter shell. And now this can take a while. What about Paul? And, you know, like I said, this can take a few minutes. Yeah. So now, right, this should, we're going to do this and do this. And as you notice, there's now a shell there, and that's 3 millimeters, right? So we're going to do this. I'm going to go duplicate whatever. W cylinder. Cylinder. Make it where it's at least a little smooth. Have a little geometry there. And now we're going to divide that a couple times because we don't want this to be so big that we lose edge fidelity. Delete lower. So now we need to shrink this. And we can change this to an oval or a circle. This can be whatever the hell you want it to be. But we are going to turn on. Come on. You can do it. This is where I do want to see my Boolean preview. And so we're going to go here. We're going to make that start. We're going to go here. We're going to make that negative. We're going to turn on our Boolean preview. And now we're going to punch a hole wherever we want. All right, so we're going to come here. You know, you can make this an oval, whatever. There we go. Looks great. And now we are going to say new folder. Bring that in there. Is everything turned off? It is. Boom. Boolean folder. All right. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do intersection. And I am going to Boolean folder. Not good. Crunchy neck. Did you all hear that? Is my video that choppy right now? The sound? Okay, so once again, we were just doing a very big, deep process. The machine lags when I do big processes, right? It takes its time. Did I? Oh, I have to turn things on. Boolean folder. All right. So what we've done, right, is we have two parts. We have our body. We have the plug, right? And it's a shell. Now, I will almost always come in here, and this should still be different yep. Click on this. Nope. Turn gizmo off. Click on this, and let's look at this, right? So, you know, we need to decide if we want, you know, this. It's 3 mils, so we'll be able to flow in there. So if this were gold, you would want that because you want as much as you can. But what you're never, it's going to be really hard to get this investment out, right? So often in a case like this, unless it's a weight issue, right? Unless you're like, no, I really need that much gold out of it, you can manage it. But does everyone see what I mean? You're going to have a very hard time getting this bit of investment out of the model. That might not matter to you. You might just pluck it up to here so no one sees it. And then you're that. And then when you weigh it, it's gold and you can charge them more for the gold. That's called cheating and that's called fraud. But it happens. So we're going to do this. Well, I need, okay. And so let's double side this. And you know, you can just knock this down. you know, just get rid of that. And then I don't have smooth stronger on. That's one thing. This needs to be minimum connected points is 1. Right. Why is that not knocking that off? That's super weird. At this point, it should be dealing with that fine. Oh, it's because this is the sorry. This is actually the back side of this, so that's why trim dynamic wasn't working. But I would come in here and I would smooth this out no matter what, because when you're printing, it's going to try to print all that nonsense, all the chatter. So try to get this shell sort of as smooth as you can. Now, if this were a less than 3 millimeter shell, you want to be careful because sometimes you can take this and relax it back through the other mesh, if that makes sense. But with 3 mil, we get plenty of room. And so the thing to remember is, you know, these things are going to need supports on the inside too if it's not perfectly smooth and right. So make sure that however you're setting up your supports, that it'll consider inside edging, right? Because, you know, this could be an island, right? So I tend to want to smooth everything down. There we go. Pretty close. Now we'll bring it back in. No place this thing over. Looks good. And now you have hollow mesh. Right. Does that make sense? What details? We haven't touched any of the details. Well, I did this low. Like if I were doing this, I would dynamesh this high so I didn't lose any of my details, because this is probably going to be my last step. If you had, right? I mean, here's another place where you can just Z-remesh this thing, and it doesn't have to be, you know, you can Z-remesh it pretty high, reproject your sculpt, and then you can come back and do all the smoothing stuff as well. So yes, you can go back, Z-reproject and all of that, but this is usually later on in the process. So normally you won't have to, if you're doing it efficiently, you wouldn't have to go back. Yeah, you know, I lost detail because I just made this very low, so I didn't process and lag. I would process a big model. That's what I would do. I'd just wait and let it think. But so does anyone have questions about that? It's actually super easy now because it allows us to pick. It allows us to pick a thickness here. So das ist gut. Right? Okay. And the beauty is you now have a plug. So let's say you can't, right, it's not the bottom. Let's say because of how it's being cast or whatever, you need a plug here in the center back, or you're wiring it with LEDs or whatever the hell you're doing with it. You know, you can always come here, and the beauty about generating the plugs, right? So let's come back up here. Let us go, you know, you want to put eyes in it, let's say. Right? let's say it's a ball joint doll, or you're going to make the eyes out of a gemstone, right? So really you need the plug over here so you can get to the head or get to the skull, right? And we're just going to get it to be roughly that. Right, so you can see that, oh well, I don't need it that big, I just need to get it in there. But 3 mils pretty for the face, so you realize that that's going to be hard to deal with there. And so you can change the thickness here, you can change the thickness here. You can come in until you find a place where it's working for you, right? Get it kind of there. You can see that that would be an okay plug, or like, oh, we want it in the back. Right? So you're like, okay, well, that's where I need my plug. Great. So once again, come here, Boolean folder. Come back, change this to intersection. Boolean folder. And so the beautiful thing about this process of just using Boolean folder is you can see your plug has kept all your detail, right? You have plugs that fit perfectly and they retain all your external detail. So to get that to fit, you might sand it down just a little on the inside surface, but you punch that in and it's going to sit. It's going to be a perfect plug. I want some watermelon. Why would you do that to me? That's very unkind. And if you wanted to, you can always take this, taper, have it taper a little, make it a little straighter. There we go. And then you can say accept. And now when you do that, right, then it tapers in. So it's not just a straight plug. But I find that straight plugs are actually a little nicer because when you rubber mallet it in, I would just give it a slight taper. That's too much. But if you just give it a slight taper, you can hammer it in and it's going to almost mechanically fuse. Right, especially if you're using gold or soft metal, hammering that in with a slight taper, you're going to be fine. You're going to hammer that in. It's going to be perfect. You're going to take a little file tool or a little silicone brush tool and just go over that edge a little, or a burnisher, right? It's just taking the metal and you're just burnishing it in. Done. Righto. But you can see you want to get rid of stuff like that because when you start to print, those can become very big problems in printing if you're not paying attention to them. Alrighty, so I think that covers hollowing. Bracelet. Okay, so basically we're bracelet and spiraling. Okay. I assume you uploaded your bracelet. If not, I don't even know what to say to you. Request files. vector class. Come on. Ugh. You're gonna make me download it, you bastard. Oops. Oh, well, like I said, I was very lucky to have magnificent teachers in my life. And then when I came to ZBrush, the world was a lot smaller then, the ZBrush forums, you know, and just amazing people helped me greatly. And I just feel, you know, it's kind of our responsibility to kind of help people understand what's going on because people help me. So that's sort of that's my jam, I guess. Okay, so did that download? Well, first of all, it looks like you don't have enough geometry to carry that detail, but let's figure out what the hell's going on here. If you're just working on your closure, get it away from all this damn noise. Why do you have all this crap on here? Okay. Is this the same one? Hey man, that's my goal. And hopefully, as the new website comes out, as my new teaching forum comes out, it'll be a lot easier and a lot clearer. Okay, so first of all, let's just get the hell away from all this other garbage. You have so much crap in here. Okay, so we have our closure. Split the parts. Holy shnikes, you got a noisy bastard in here, don't you? No, it's not so bad. Let's just delete this noise. So this is after Boolean and all that. Remember how I said auto group, click, delete hidden? That'll get rid of all this garbage. Okay. So So first thing, you know, you did your Boolean cut and all that. I would come back and before I did this, I would see stuff like this, right? You know, I would clean that up before I did my Booleaning, right? So this part actually should be something like that. Because there's just no need to have, okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to confuse the design, so just kind of get rid of these little areas that are going to be ugly. And that's just a little editing as you realize what's happening with your part, right? Okay, so we now have that. And let's bring this on, right? And so you kind of know what this is going to do. So instead of having that, just turn that into a graphic, if that makes any sense, right? You know, just make this something that's setting apart from this. Because you don't need that little half cut there. It's just something it's ugly. It's unfinished, if you know what I mean. So we're just going to, okay, so. And the same thing here. Okay, well here, let's just look at this first. All right. And you may double check me on this. I might be wrong on this, but I think that for the most part, when they're making these, now this is going to be bent metal. You know, you're not going to cast this, so I guess in this case it doesn't matter. But I was going to say, I think these things work better with a little airspace here. And that gives it actual room to compress as opposed to just a flat, because that'll, you know, sort of hit here and you're never going to get that all the way down without really crunching it, right? So I think that normally there's like a bend there, since it's bent metal, you know, they bend it where it's not just a sharp point, but where there's a little airspace. So it actually is going down below negative, but that's fine. Right, and that's going to sit down. And then is that an angle? No. Somehow you squished this model, right? No, I guess that is. But see how you have an angle here? I don't think that angle's cut on this. No. So you need to come back in here and just make sure that that is, now if that's just extra room, no, they never cast that part. At least not anyone who wants their hinges to work. Is that just, oh, that's not, when you cut that, somehow that is floppy. So hold on. Planar. Yeah. That wasn't really a, when this got booleaned, you did it with something with real low res. And so it kind of pinched there. Right. Yeah, see what you used as the Boolean cutter had very, very little geometry, right? And remember back here when I said I subdivided that cutter, get your cutters to have a little geometry, and that way you don't have any problems with corners and edges and stuff like that. Because here there's just not enough geometry in that basic shape, right, to cover some of these surface applications, I guess. So whatever you use for your cutter, divide it up to, you know, a few 100,000 or something, and or dynamesh it and whatever, but just make sure that it has some geometry there, because if it's no geometry, you can see that you wind up with weird intersections that pulled over, and it's going to cause you a little bit of trouble if you have complicated surfaces. Excuse me, if you have complicated surfaces. All right, so honestly, and then I would probably, once again, kind of finish this design off where they don't intersect, right? Where it's sort of a clean transition here. Just so it doesn't look like, if you're trying to hide it where you don't see this, then make sure these match exactly. Does that make sense? But as you can see, right, when you were doing that short, just how the cutter worked out, these two lines didn't intersect. So make sure either they intersect perfectly in compression, or that you make them look very intentionally not connecting. And then you don't wind up with that look like it's a mistake, right? Intentionality. Right, does that make sense? Because that way it doesn't look like it's a misalignment, or make it match perfectly. But yeah, I mean, other than, get rid of that little slop on the edge, because there's no point for it. It just looks like you cut it, right? Once again, intentionality. You didn't just, I know you just used a cutter and you got it there, but you don't want it to look that way. You want it to look like you thought about it, right? So make this, one design. So these match up, right? And they're flush. Well, I mean, that's why we have printers, honestly. There's no, I mean, so let's get these to where they're roughly even. I'm just using the white line so they're on the same curve, right? Just getting those 2 points where they touch, and that should be roughly even, if that makes any sense. Okay. Now where's our pen? Split into parts. Allergies. this masked? Yes. Okay. I'm just getting that rod roughly center with everybody. Close enough. Come down here, turn that off. Make this larger. Alright, close enough spawn. Let's make this where we can see it outside. This way we can have a center, right? And now we're going to come here. And we're just going to take it one piece at a time. Come here, flip. And you can see where your intersections are having issues, right? So right now, you can see that you're already infringing, right? This piece is already going through that surface. Does that make sense? See how it's hitting there? And so now you literally just grab this little groover, right? And you just grab your line. You start rotating. You can see you're touching a little right there, right? And you just kind of look and you keep rotating. Once again, on the blue line. See how you're infringing there? And, you know, depending on how much curve you want, if you expect to curve any more than that, right, you're already plowing to the base of this. So either you curve that out, make it a little more. If you want it to stop, oops, did it on the world, yeah, sorry. So you weren't plowing on there. That was a crap move on my part. I grabbed the world instead of the blue, right? But you can see that right here, you're already starting to infringe on this edge. So how much motion do you want, right? Because right now, you're infringing. Do you see? And let's say this is as far as you want to go, right? This is where you want it to stop. You can always now come in with your projection brush. And, oops. Right, and you can punch those back. I'm taking too much care here. But now when you go back to this part, let's hop to here and hide these guys. Oh, we want to be here and hide these guys. No. We want to be here, hide these guys. Okay. So now you can just come back in and smooth that back right away from that surface. And now you know that you have plenty of room and you're not infringing anymore. Tap it just to make sure. You can see that it didn't have that quite, this hole and this are not quite centered on the same axes. So when you're shading it, it's rocking on that. So that actually makes a big difference. So now we actually have to come back to here. Make sure that that is on this axis, right? So through this hole. Does that make sense? See, that's why I would lay these together, rock them around, pick a center, and then cut the hole at the same time. Because as you do this, let's hide this for a second. As you'll notice, look here. See, this post is not in the center of that hole. Right, it's way up here on the front. So you don't actually have that much leeway in here. So just make sure that your pen and your hole work. Rotate it, have one flipped, and look and see this isn't in position. Right, so just sort that out. And then you just rock it around the pivot and see where it's hitting. You didn't have too many problems, it was okay. But get in there and get these shapes to be right. You know, cut it, look at what's happening. And so, you know, and I would, unless there's a lot of space, I would cut them at the same time. Use the pen from the one to cut the hole from the other, right? So let's say you have this set up, right? And we're going to grab this, and this is our pen, right? You know that this is where the pen is, correct? That's our pen. So now we can just come over to this guy, turn this off, and we can start to see some issues here, right? It's just not in the right place. So then you have to move this model until it's where you want it, right? So we really want that to be kind of there, right? You want a little leeway. But that's in place. And then we also want to come here, go to the center, and you know, we know that we have the pen, so now we're going to make that bigger so there's leeway for the pen to move. And you can see that's where you want to cut your hole. Does that make sense? Well, you use the pen and then you just make the cutter, right? You're going to make the cutter the pen, right? We're just going to scoot this in so it doesn't cut into any of that, right? And now you just use the cutter, you know, the pen. Well, we need to duplicate it. Undo. So that's the pen. Hold on. That's the pen. We duplicate it, shorten it, and then you just decide how much airspace you want around it, right? I want that much airspace around it, okay. So now you would use this as a cutter and cut this part with that piece. Right, and let's say, and in all reality, if you don't want it to move too much, right, if you want it to be tight along this axis, you can move the cutter to there so there's much room on the front, but that gives it room to fall back, right? This is your tolerances where this sits, right? If this is sitting like this, there's a lot of space up here, so it's going to move forward on the link, right? So that's where you can determine your tolerances there. I'm sorry, Sid. You can watch it on this and keep your eyes open on Workspace because we will in a few weeks, I want to schedule another meeting to look at everyone's stuff, and hopefully I'll have the printer by then, and we can talk about setting up for print and printing a model for everyone. With this, oh yeah, this isn't very detailed at all. Dancing toes. We can get tons of detail in. I mean, here, give you an idea. How do I go past things all the time? Right. You can get a lot of detail in metal. And you look here, this is all actually stroke in detail. It's very subtle. So yeah, without a question, this detail could show up in metal. It just takes work. You have to have a good caster to do it. So does that answer those questions and kind of how to work on your model to get it to where it's going to rock? You just need to pick a pivot. And this is stuff you need to do early on, honestly. Oh. Of course. Oh, it will. They sent me, hold on. I think they sent me the... Try that code. And that should, oh, here. That should be the link. All right, so hold on. Right? What's our lag? Sorry, I don't know. I can't tell if no one's responding or if the lag's too long, or it's confusing. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We only have a 10-second lag. I see, it's just you're all not responding. You guys have to give me affirmations, so especially after a 2-minute lag, just say yes or something, just so I know that it's going out and I can kind of change to the next topic. All right. So the next thing was spiral around a pole or something. Spiral around a pole. Okay. So, spiral. Couple of ways to do it. Let's just take our pole here and append it. All right. hide that. That's what we're trying to do. So of course, the first and just easiest is, you know, to just kind of right. And so if you want something that's consistent and you're trying to do it by masking, you can kind of do this. Nope. Right. And then that's going to give you an idea of where you're going from one to the other, right? So we know that the spiral will be just kind of get yourself up and around to where you can see the next lines, right? And then you can kind of fiddle futz with them to where that's the wrong one. Right. I think is that right? Yeah. And so you can just kind of creep, damn it. You have to make sure that you're on the page. Come on. Just center to center real quick. It's easier if you take one more step there to go around, but oops. So, you know, you can kind of work your way into a spiral there. Now, that winds up being a double spiral, right? You actually have two lines going, if that makes sense. So that's one way. Just mask it and then extract. There is a rhomboid down here in these things. So if you go boom, no, come to here. And if you come to your basics, like see this helix, this is a base helix, right? And then to adjust it, you come down here to initialize. And this gives you a way to kind of, you know, spiral it out. You can do like the rate, see how this has a bulge here? You can make that straight, right? And then you can also play with the offset. Right, you can give it more space, less space, kind of futz with it here. Yeah. And then how many divisions there are, you can make it smoother. Right, so it's not quite so clunky. And you can develop it that way. Now the problem with this, you do need to convert, I think you need to convert this to hold on, let's divide clay tubes. Do we have to, is it going to make us convert? Yeah. So the one thing about this is you do have to make polymesh 3D. Get them here, you can get rid of that. And now you have your polymesh that you can work on. That's the easiest. Does that make sense? Did everyone see how we did this? Right, so these shapes down here that say gear 3D, cylinder 3D, ring 3D, sweep profile 3D, terrain 3D, these are all old geometry. So you have to come back and make a polymesh once you play with them. All of these also, like, you know, gears, spiral, all of these you work on in initialize. Okay, so we come here and we select the helix tool, But right now it looks like a spring because, well, this is the helix tool because we changed the profile. That's what the helix tool normally looks like, right? That's what the profile you're going to see looks like. And so you come down here, we have the helix tool selected, right? And so we can do all kinds of things here. So now this shows you, if you want it on a certain axis, right? X, Y, and Z. Coverage is literally that. If you want it wide open, what is the density that you want it? That's what coverage is. Thickness is just that. It can taper, right? So these are all profiles that you can readjust. Now, radius is the one. See how this has this pattern to it? Like you can make this be whatever shape. That's the profile, right? But if you want it to be like a spring, there you go. It's flat, kind of close enough to flat. Right, so now it's a cylinder. We go to offset, and that just is literally, right, just kind of futs with it, and it's giving you the offset of the thing, so you can take the offset and then increase the coverage, right? And then the twist profile, you can change your twist profile, and you can see what's happening in here. Let me see the lines. Not a polymesh, so you can't see it. Right, but you can see the twist is its alignment to, right, the alignment to the direction of the turn. You'll probably want to just leave that straight for right now. And then we'll turn that off. And then divide is just that. It's how many divisions you have around the tube, right? And then lateral divide, right? And the nice thing is, really, you can keep this low, right? Right. Make Polymesh 3D. And now you can come in here and Z model this if you want, right? So let's say you want a ridge on this thing. You can come in up here, Z modeler. I want to Q mesh, polyloop. Right? Because this is a circle on top, you see how it went here, returned and back. So that's just something you have to be careful with when you're doing polylooping. But so you can sit there and futz with that and Z modeler or whatever. And now come in, divide it. And there you go. You have a spring. Right? Woohoo! All right. And so now, if I scale it up, but I want to keep it the same thickness. You mean you want to bend it? Is that kind of what you mean? But you want it to stay a coil. I think that's probably the max amount you're going to be able to bend that without it distorting too much. And then from here, well, what I would do is I would find this center line, right? I would cut it here and cut it here so you had a center line that's matching. If I want a bigger size. You mean you want the hole bigger? What's the bigger size? I'm not understanding the bigger size. I'm sorry. Well, that just comes down to setting your settings up, right? You know, you can change the thickness here. Right, is that what you mean by like the relative size of the hole? Right. Is that what you mean? Well, so you're not using the sizes, you're just taking a small one and scaling it up? Yeah, you need to make that clear. Okay, so light box, tools, jewelry tools, bracelet sizes, bangle size, right? So you're well, that's the whole damn point of this, Sarah. Ask things you want to go over again, right? So well, there is no way to increase it without making the scale, right? I mean, if you are scaling it bigger, you're scaling it bigger. Now, if you want to, hold on, is this what you're asking? Just give me something. Everybody turn off. Frame. Okay, so you have a bracelet. And you don't want it to scale in all directions, right? You want to make it like this size, but you don't want it to scale in all directions. Is that what I'm hearing here? Well, you can do it this way where you go boom, and you go boom, right? And that will keep it from scaling in the z-axis, right? But no matter what, you're going to get a little bit of change, you know, because there is no just scale interior, right? If you scale, this is going to get a little wider no matter what. And if you don't want that to happen, you can feasibly then come back in and like maybe mask it off and then, you know, pull it back down a little where you're back to your, like you can, hold on, where's mask? Right, mask off the internal surface. Lower your res. And then you can bring this back down to here, bring that back down to there. High res, high res, high res, high res. And so you can get rid of some of that bowing or some of the expansion that's happened that way. I'm not mad at you, ding dong. So I think that's the only way to do it, where you just do it two ways, mark your thing, go down to a low res, and then bring the two back to whatever you want that thickness to be. And that's probably going to be your best bet. Cool. All right. I'm not mad at you. It's just, it's what we're doing, right? We better be going over the things you don't know. Okay. Any other questions? How are we doing? Oh, we're doing okay on time. Okay. So, do we have any more questions or issues? Anyone? This is the time to ask. Don't hesitate to ask. I'm not going to yell at you much. So you mean you just go back in? Well, what I find, so here, and let's divide a bunch of these, okay? Or duplicate. And we're gonna duplicate. So you've been working, right? You have all these tools, and now you kind of worked yourself up, and this is the tool you want, right? I'm assuming this is what you're saying. So I've worked it out, I got it all done, and actually this is the tool I want, and I don't need anybody else. Well, I'm going to go to my star. I'm going to append. I'm going to append in. No, that's not it. Delete. Go to my star. Append. Append in. Where's the bracelet? Is that it? That's it. Bracelet. right? So now I have my star in my bracelet. Delete my star. Come down to this guy, and you have the thing you want. Make sure you have the thing you want, and then just delete all. And that gets rid of that tool, and you have your new tool here. Is that what we're talking about? How to make a cutter from a stone? Do you want a gemstone or do you want an abstract shaped stone? Are we dealing with opals or are we dealing with diamonds? How long's the lag now? Do we have a real long lag still? Okay. Right? You have a tool and you have tons of different subtools. Right? Are we good now? We choose the one we want. I want extra large 1, number 17. Okay? So now I have the tool selected that I want to keep out of this whole barrage of garbage that I don't want to keep. We're going to autosave here. Okay. So I know to wait for 20 seconds before I start screaming at you guys or just staring at me while I'm asking questions. All right, so we've gone through. We want extra large 117. We make sure that it is selected. We come up to our star. We go to append. We come here, extra large 117. That's the one I want separated out. I'm just going to delete my star because I don't need it. I'm going to come back down here to all of this garbage, right? That's all shit we don't want. Just hit delete all. It wipes out the whole sub tool, and now we have the one tool that we want to keep. Does that answer that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yes or no? Okay. Oh, you're killing me. Honestly, Brian, I don't use them much, but here, let's go through it and we'll try to figure it out for you. I, for the most part, hate noise and alphas and stuff. I think that they're too repetitive, they're too perfect, and people recognize it, but I understand that's a style that people like, so let's see what we can do for you here. Let's make this wider. Lower res, lower res, lower res, lower res. Maybe higher res, maybe there. Oh, sorry. We'll do a diamond cutter. No, you don't have to apologize. It's not your fault that I don't use it. Let's just get something that's smooth here. I'll show you how to make a cutter here in a second. Sorry about that. I forgot that one. Brian cutting line. You notice how I'm blaming Brian for my inability to keep track of anything. All right, so let's get some on the thing. So for the most part, if you're doing, so you want to do it by UV, right? So let's take this to white. And let us put where we want these things to cut. So we're going to go paint. No. Oh, color, fill object. I can drag this down. And I think we're just going to paint a line like that. A line like that. Turn that off. And we have to put a cut line in it. And a cut line in it. If you're really clever, you'll put these two cut lines in different places. Now, UV master. Work on a clone. And I believe we can divide that clone. And we want enable control painting. Enable control painting. So this is where we want to put one second. Let's remove all softness from this. I want a hard brush. I'm gonna put a line there. You're gonna be patient with me. I haven't really played with this since the beta. Okay. So now we go unwrap. Actually, unwrap. So we're processing. So if we start to lag or chatter, it's the processing. If there are any questions that anyone wants to ask while I'm sitting here with ZBrush struggling to think, please ask. Of course. Yep, I can gladly do that once ZBrush starts thinking again. Now see, this is the issue, is that to have a sculptural clone, right, if you're trying to get, the problem with UVs and all that crap is that they're flat. And the whole UV world is not set up to make a sculptural UV, right? It's just an image. And in turn, you wind up with, you can get your UVs, but they're going to be masks or something like that, right? It's not actually a sculptural, you know, the bitmaps and stuff, you can apply them, but it's pain in the butt, right? So to be able to apply the dimensional, going the other direction, right, where it's like this alpha and you're trying to apply it to an unwrapped UV, ZBrush only allowed that in this last update. No, most of the time you're casting links one at a time and then you're splitting them and laser welding them together. If you have a big enough casting cylinder, I find it fun to cast things in one. Oh, shit. All right, so we have to reboot, sorry. All that waiting and it crashed. I think my machine might crash every time. I've made a little video of this. Let me try to dig it up. I don't think this machine has enough processing power for me to do it well. Sorry, Brian. Do me a favor and email me. You have my email, right? And I will dig up this video that I did for beta, and I will post it, and or I'll make another one. For some reason, I'm crashed on that, and I don't want to sit and waste all our time just kind of going over it again and again, and me just continuing to crash. You can't, it's just a pain in the ass. The other way to apply, here, let's do this real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Right, is if you come under surface, go under noise scale, you need to increase so we can see it. And in here, the noise plugin, there are all kinds of different things you can do, right? So let's say you want houndstooth. right? So you come in, you can I think it has to do with my strength. It might be the scale. See the squares? I think it might be my scale is just huge. Hold on. Plug in scale. Noise plugin. For some reason I never ever can get this damn thing to work. Cancel. Noise. Noise scale. Noise plugin. Can we get anything to work? See, like I can never get it to I think I'm always missing something here. But there are people who get this to work very well. And I don't know how or why here. Wait. You can see, you can start to see stuff. And I think I'm always screwing it here by scale somehow. You see how it's, my pattern's just too big. There we go. Okay, hold on. Okay, so let's go to something that's geometric. Let's say checkerboard. So here you can see that you're starting to get your checkerboard. Right. Come on. And so with Noisemaker, you can get it to where you can apply geometric textures. This, I put the noise in first, so yeah, plug-in scale, so you can change it here, like the scale of the checkerboards. Once you get it in, you can change your noise depth. Oh, let's turn noise off. Alright, hold on, cancel noise. Noise scale 1, but we don't want noise. Alright, so now I'm going to come in here. Noise plugin. Checkerboard. We're going to increase the depth. We're going to make the scale smaller. Why did that? Okay, so we would go, okay, so now we can do plug-in scale. Right, so you can change it there, magnify my mask. You sit here and fuddle futz with it. You can make a difference, multiply, you know, you can futz with it. You can change the curve of regression. And now you go, okay. And it'll apply to your mask, right? So there are ways of getting that to work. You can also bring in your own alphas and stuff. I never use it. I mean, it's just like it had, hold on, let's turn that off, turn it back on. Delete noise. Noise plugin. There are scales, and some people use these. Right. Oh, what's over here? But you see how and then what's funny is you can stack them. You might want to just do a search for the video on this, because like I said, I can never get it to get the depths right. Like I can never get it to actually register very well. But you can see it applies that, and if you if you come in, if I'm not mistaken, this is still active. Yeah. So because we haven't baked this in, like you can come back in, turn on X, let's go ZR, and let's kick that up some. And you can do things like you can use mask. I never had patients deal with this crap. That's why. You could take your mask. It's a good way to generate noise in specific areas evenly, right? And you know how I use the hand brushing. You could feasibly do it with this. You just mask off the area, then apply to mesh, and then you can unmask it, and you can see that it didn't apply it into the masks, right? I would look at the video on it. There's a good video on it. I don't use it, so I know there's just one slider that'll make it deep and visible. I don't ever use it. Yeah, no, my problem with it is that, it's, for the most part, your alphas and displacement maps, there's a limited number of them out there. And when people use them, I can identify it in like a second. I can look at it and I can tell you what group you bought and, a lot of that. So I find that I'm usually very disappointed, and I just call it alpha, using displacement maps. I mean, there are good ones, of course, but the problem is they're either too subtle or they're just too much, you know. And I don't like scales and stuff that are perfect. Now that's just me, so a lot of people may, you know, but your scales are going to look like everyone else's because there are only 5 real good scale alphas out there, and everyone uses them. All right, so let us turn this into, yeah, but this is fine. All right, so we have our little guy here, right? We're going to go to Lightbox. We're going to go to Tools. We're going to go to Jewelry Tools. And we are going to go to Gem Stuff. Going to go to Multi-Shape Stones. And let's use this because it's an odd shaped stone, right? Is that kind of what we're talking about? Odd shaped stone. Going to bring you in here, append our stone, turn symmetry off, sliders to subtools. So let's say we want that to be 4 mil. So we're just going to come in here, type 4, enter, resize subtool, boop. So now we know that this is just super small. Okay. So now if we're going to turn this into a cutter, right? Let's get our stone. I'm just going to drag it up here just so it's above my place, right? So we're going to duplicate this. I am now going to Dynamesh this. Take it up to about 1 million or whatever. Okay. So why I did that is so it has geometry when it cuts, so it's not just the flat planes, right? And now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go extender. I'm going to come in here and decide where I want my Azure to start. And so we're going to say, it doesn't matter where it is. You know, this way I'm just trying to find a place. I like it there. I'm going to extend. Just give it a bunch. Say thank you very much. Accept. Remesh by Dynamesh. Tap. All right. So now once again Dynameshing. So we have a pretty general nice homogeneous mesh. So now what we have is our gemstone and a gemstone with an Azure cutter. So now we have that. I also tend to come up here and first of all make sure you should hit accept. Now we're going to go to extender again. Rotate off, grab your little blue dot, drag it up, and I'm going to just drag this right in the center of these, right? I'm just going to go right there, so I'm sort of splitting it in the middle there. Once again, extend. Accept. Remesh by Dynamesh. Accept. And now I am going to trim front. No, trim front. 0.6. 6. And I'm just going to cut this off. And I'm going to cut this off. Nope. Just going to do a quick smooth over this. Just to kind of relax any of the weirdnesses in there. Right? So now that's my cutter. Gonna bring that in here. W, move it. So what do we see? We see that at this scale, you're not going to be able to get a good flat cut. So your decision is either you make it smaller or we have to bring the metal up to this, right? So we come back to you, turn you off, turn you off, turn symmetry on, turn that off, make it X. And so I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna fill that up to where I know that we're at least getting over that little lip. Right, so this just gives us an idea of where we need metal. Right, and then we need, once again, just kind of fill it up to where we're over that lip. There we go. And now, trim front. And we are right on that lip. And we can easily now come here, turn transparency on. Trim front, hold down Alt, and you see how to fill that up. And so we can come out here, make our brush a little smaller, and I'm going to trim front Alt to where I roughly have the similar amount of thickness around the edge, right? And now I'm just going to trim front, so we're going to get rid of that hump in there. Right, smooth this out. And now, with transparency on, I'm going to look here, W, get this straight to the world. Now I know that that is the bottom edge of my stone, right? So we bring it in a little. Or if you're going to use this, like let's say as a fletch set, you're just going to bring it in a touch. So this is just telling you where the depth of your stone is, right? If you're going to want a room like to do a bezel fold over or something, leave a little extra, come here, new folder, enter, grab your band, and now you make that start, you make that cut, you go boom, Boolean folder. Is it thinking? Oh, transparency. It won't Boolean with transparency turned on. Boolean folder. Alright, I'm gonna go this. And there you go, that's sort of the lip. Now obviously that's a very short lip if you're doing a Boolean, but boom. Let's flip that real quick so we can. Boop. Flip. Right? And then you can flush set this really easily by just dragging your graver there. And boom. And now you can come back in here and determine how you want, you know, this to look. Right. 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 Did that make sense? I'm assuming we're on a 20-second count. Great. And so now, like you're asking, is there anything else you want to go over at cutters? Like I said, cutters are literally just, you just have to think about airspace. So now let's say you want this to be an interesting bimetal ring, right? So I'm going to split mask. Hide that. I want to see my damn lines. There we go. Those are not the same place. So I want those to be in the same place. Mask. Mask Alt. So I've selected those, right? Now W. I'm going to drag this here. And I'm just going to drag these down until everybody stops moving, right? And so now I know the inside and the outside are the same. So now, nope. I think it's probably easier for everyone if we do this, actually. Because I have a little thing I do there, but I think it's better if I show you this way. Close it. Split mask points. All right, so now we have our little guy here. It is closed. Gonna go see modeler, drag. It's annoying that those reset all the time. So I'm just gonna do that. And I'm gonna go symmetry X and Z. Oh. Okay. Now symmetry X and Z. And of course, I didn't make it symmetrical. I love it when I'm thinking. Just fills me with joy. Okay, so now we're going to drag these guys out. So now we are going to go hide all this crap. Where are you? Oh. So now we're going to come here and we are going to go the modeler, insert. Oh. There, and we're going to go there, and slide. Okay. So now we're going to do this. All right. And down. All right. So now W. Here we go. So now you can do something like that where you create a shape. We bring this guy in here. We bring this guy up here. delete lower, bend arc. W. Get that. Oops. I didn't have enough geometry on the inside, but you'll get the idea. Bring that up here, doop. Hide that. New folder. Cutter. Right, you can see I didn't have any, when it divided, it didn't divide the interior very well. So we're going to have a weird interior. But that's okay. Make that, boom. Cutter, visible, Boolean folder. I didn't have enough geometry to hold that bottom edge. Should have divided it on the inside after I dragged it, but I'm being lazy. So this is what you get. You can do it. You see how it, if that were a clean, these would match, right? I hope everyone sees what I did wrong there, right? But now you auto group and you now have a bimetal part, right? So you can do this just really quickly, right? And create iterations of parts very simply. Does everyone see what went wrong with that, right? When I did this, I didn't have the geometry on the inside to hold up, right? So all that this is right, but I didn't subdivide the inside here. Right, so if we were here, see this is just one poly. Hold on. Right, so if I would have done this correctly, I would have come in here and insert multiple edge loop and done that. And then we would have had plenty of geometry to do these bends. Does that make sense? Kind of what I did wrong. And so now when we bend that, now it'll act as a cutter. See how it'll retain the inside edge. We didn't have enough geometry to hold that up. That's why it went crazy. Cool. So, you know, when we talk about cutters, it's just all you have to do is think about all you're doing is creating airspace, right? That's the whole point. And there it is. I mean, that's the gist of the beast right there. folder. Well, that's what we did here, right? I just created the cutter with the Azure cutter, right? That's what that's doing. I just grabbed the stone. For pave, no, never for pave, because once again, I won't do pave. I mean, I'll fake it for rendering, but I won't do that. That's a stone cutter's thing. I am not going to do the stone cutter's job. That's not like I refuse to do stone cutter's job. That's called stone cutter stab you in the eye with a graver if you do it wrong. So trust me, it's just easier to let them do it. They do not want you doing that for them, trust me. So here we go. Now, auto group, split the parts. And so now there's your key, there's your part, and you've just made a ring that's bimetal, right? Obviously, you'll pay attention, not cut those little groovers in there, but there it is, right? Yeah, that's a real job. Well, I mean, once again, yes, of course you can. Here, let's go to this. That does. Let's hide all this crap. Detect edges. Keep polygroups maybe. X. Man, it's bad. Because the problem with using a grid and pave is that pave's wow, that's ugly. So let's do this. Close holes. That was weird. I wonder if I had two of them in there or something. Hold on. Super weird. We're going to pretend that did a good job. We're going to pretend that happened. Okay. So we're going to pretend that this is a good job. And we're going to go to here. Nope. We're going to drag you just out. We're going to hide you. We're going to I don't know what the hell you are. Append. A star. Take the star. Cylinder. So if I'm not mistaken, this is your question here. So we have this thing, and you want it to pave it. Now, once again, this isn't round, so this is going to get even weirder than before. So we're going to take you. We are going to make insert mesh brush. Create insert mesh brush. Boom. New. Boom. All right. So we have this lovely insert mesh brush. We're going to come down here. Nanomesh. We're to come back over here, and we are going to create nanomesh brush. See, we have a nanomesh brush. And now I'm going to come to the modeler. Insert nanomesh. All poly. No. Poly. All polygons is fine. Now, no, I want you. Where's my nanomesh? There's my nanomesh. Oh, for God's sake. Now I can't even. Insert nanomesh. Why are you being a pain in my butt? Okay, it's going to be one of those days. I don't know. Had this working the other day for you guys. And now, for some reason, insert nanomesh. We have our nanomesh. So, for some reason, my nano brush isn't loading. But you can take this, adjust where it is by this, right? We can sync it in so the Azure is going through, right? And then you just come back, get rid of those. And that would be that. Then you just use it as a Boolean cutter for everybody. But remember, this gets huge, right? Because these are almost 2,000 a piece. And how many are there? There are a lot of them. And so that can wind up with a pretty big mesh. I don't know why I'm not. Didn't I do that? No, that just gives you your different options in your brush, right? Porn stars doing psychedelic toads, and they did it wrong. That's 5-MeO DMT. And you shouldn't be able to die from 5-MeO DMT, so I don't know what they did, but that was not good. When I showed you this the last time when we got the stones, it worked fine. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, Nacho got it. Um, hey, Nacho, how are we doing? So, yes, you can, but you're never going to do that in manufacturing unless you're making like cheap Indian jewelry or something like that. Very rarely are you ever going to be asked to do that. But yes, you can. All right. What was the other? Did I miss a question here? Because you usually pop over cutters. We did cutters. How about bell dose? The thickness do anything for ring? Mike, I have no damn clue what the hell that means. Indeed. Always a joy, my friend. So, Mike, are there any other questions? Anybody have any questions or issues or anything else? Yeah, it was really funny. You would have laughed horribly at me. I upgraded Keyshot, and then I tried to load the materials that I had made, and for some reason they didn't load, and then it was jamming up my computer. Oh my god, I'm the worst. I'm such a lousy renderer. Guys, Nacho's a brilliant renderer. He actually has tutorials. Go to Nacho's tutorials. You're going to learn a lot more about rendering than me. Okay, so here we go, guys. Any other questions? Oh boy. What do we have? 20-second lag? I'm giving you 20 seconds. No. While I'm waiting, I'm going to pitch Nacho again. So if you all Google Nacho, he has a lot of really good. He actually has a good material package that, like pre-made metal materials for Keyshot. They're good. He has a really good set of them, and he has a few videos that are actually really informative about rendering metals. So definitely look him up because he's doing some really lovely work. All right, let's see. Well, I'm sure we can find one. There's the jewelry pack. So if you go to his, let's start here by going to his ArtStation. And then within his ArtStation, there are links to his material packs, and I think to your videos as well, if I'm not mistaken. Store, yeah. So he has some alphas, his scale pack, his metals pack. Oh, I didn't see the super metals pack. But he has some really good stuff. There's, and am I not mistaken? Don't you have videos out there? I know there's a video out there. I'm not insane. Did I misspell it wrong up here? Maybe. Yeah, I totally misspelled his name. That's why. Oh, Mr. Paying Attention over here. But I thought he had links to... Yeah, there you go. He has quite a few videos. I was going to say, I know he has videos, I just can't spell. Sorry, my brother. Wasn't trying to totally mangle your name there. No, of course. Hey, small world. We got to keep together. Well, that's, what do you mean you don't have any videos? Look, these are all videos. And you have the one video where you're talking about how to build, yeah. Or were you just in that video? I could have sworn. Maybe it's this and it's mentioning you because it's the ring or something. Oh, well. Don't expect miracles from this sad ass. I can barely remember my own name, man, let alone your video selection. Maybe I just linked it from one of your other videos. I thought that you had a video about creating using the occlusion, like how to set up the occlusion. Was that not you? No. Sorry. Does the thickness of a bell make any difference in the noise? Oh yeah, without a question. In a lot of ways, you want your bell to, especially, small bells, you want them to be really thin so they retain that resonance. But yeah, the thicker the wall, the deeper the tone, right? It's just like think of a xylophone hammer, right? The smaller the metal, they also get thinner. They resonate. It resonates faster on a thin wall. So yes, it does. Oh no, I was just saying that I thought that I had watched a video that I thought was you, that was doing, like, within the material map or material, what's it called? The material chart, the procedural material. I thought it was you showing how to do the occlusion and the edging and how to make the sulfuring textures. I don't half the time. Who am I again? What am I doing? Where are we? Boom. Well, yeah, I mean, of course, Sarah, if at the beginning you can't watch the video, then what I'll do is I'll schedule a time with Ryan to where we have the go-to meeting, and we can do it there. And we'll make sure that Eric's there as well, so he can go, hey, stupid, push that button. It's not hard, honestly. Like I said, watch that video because it shows you how to do 2 passes, right? Actually, I think this might be... If I'm not mistaken, this webinar, and I love it's on fucking Pinterest. Pinterest is the devil. All right, so I think this demo actually goes through the different concepts of, so like here, they're doing it for the metal, and it goes through the pass, and then he shows you, was it here? So that's his. Yeah, here, I think this kind of. Right, so in Photoshop, he's taking the one pass that was for the gemstone, and you can see he's masked it, and he's just changing the exposure within Photoshop to get it. Because really there isn't a good way to do a single pass gemstone jewelry render if you're doing it like this. Now, Matrix uses V-Ray. I think that's it. And V-Ray isn't actually doing, so this is taking it, so KeyShot's taking that gemstone and it's thinking of it as an object. And you're changing your specific gravity of the stone, or the reflective index and the reflective depth. And that's how you're working on your stone. Where V-Ray actually has, basically they're just photos, and it's kind of doing a map of the gemstone. In V-Ray you can get good gemstones. And now if you're going into Marmoset and some of the other post-production rendering stuff, you can get it done a little easier in one pass. But in KeyShot, you're going to make a metal pass. And you can see here, I think he has this really bright, and so model prep, and then like, so he's getting it to where his model looks good. And then here he's doing it, see, it doesn't matter what the metal is, but see how he's making the stone be reflective. So you're doing a pass for the metal and then a pass for the gemstone, and that's how you're getting really dynamic stones. Now, you can do it, and I mean, I don't go through all this garbage for the most part. I just tend to throw a stone in there and just go, because my renderings, for the most part, I'm not spending a lot of time on a rendering, you know, because I view it to a client, I think it's a waste of time. Now, as you can see, Nacho does beautiful renderings of his jewelry, and ZBrush uses them a lot. So in that case, it's not a waste of time. But yeah, I think that yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just do a Google search on ZBrush or on KeyShot jewelry rendering, right? Now here he is showing, like, he's selecting the stone, and actually this is a good thing for those of you who can't do the Photoshop step. He's selecting the stone and he's rotating the stone in the scene until he's getting the best reflectivity off of it. So, you know, in that case, these are good tips. But there are a few of them that are literally just Google search and watch a few of the videos. I mean, that's how I did it, right? So in that context, you know, there are probably, I think there are 5 or 6 videos that are of value, right? Yeah, to get them good, right? Really, you have to do it in a couple passes, because very rarely are you going to be able to set up the reflections on the ring and the metal and get it to look nice, and that just happens to be good on the stone. But like in that last little video, often you can select the stone, click on it, and you can rotate the stone, and when you see it kind of brighten up, you know, that's a way to do it within a one pass system. But you really, if you want really dynamic, exciting gemstones, you're going to be doing it in 2 passes. Yeah. Ray bounces is a setting within, I think it's in materials, or in, I think no, it's just in the rendering setting. I think it's environment maybe, but that's how many times it's looking for, it's literally rays, right? And it records that. So obviously the more ray bounces you have, the more dynamic the reflections and stuff are. But yeah, I don't know. Unless you're trying to win rendering competitions, I think for the most part, it's a lot of time to get beautiful stone renders. Yeah, on the lighting tab. Thank you. I would open it up, but but Keyshot completely eats this machine. It's like you can hear it start working. It's like this is not my rendering machine for sure. Okay, we're at 3 o'clock. Do we have any more questions? Did I skip over or forget anything? Anything? Anyone? Oh, this lag makes me want to shoot myself. Yeah, that's the that's. So, are you saying that there are questions? It's like when we have a 30-second lag and or a 2-minute lag, and someone types, "Can I ask a question?" So now it's like I have to respond, and so now it's like a 10-minute intersection. Oh, thank you, Brian. That's very kind of you. Can I buy into the community now? Well, once I have the community set up, yeah. We're trying to figure out, like I said, for the forum section, I'm trying to figure out how to get a cohesive forum that's going to be secure. I guess the big problem with these forums is that, like, they get hacked and people just are asshats in them. So I think that Shane is using Discord as his community. And so I have to I'm going to touch base with him and make sure that's true. Supposedly, Kajabi is getting a forum. And so as soon as it's up, we'll get everyone integrated. I will, without a question. Yeah, no, I will definitely ask Shane. So you're saying that he does use that, right? All right, so as far as what's next, as soon as I get my replacement printer, I will, we will have I'll get Ryan to give us a section of time, and I'm looking, let's do this, guy. Let's do this at the beginning of next month, because I still have to prep my presentation for the Pixelogic, or for the ZBrush Master presentation. And then on the 22nd, I have a presentation for Formlabs, and I still don't know what that's going to be. So I'm going to have to take some time to get those presentations set up. And I ordered a bunch of new sound equipment for my recordings, for my videos and stuff. So I need to kind of completely rebuild my room. And so let's plan for this. The beginning of next month, we will do an all-day session where you will have worked on your models, and we will go over them and see if they're ready to print and prep for print. If we need to, we can do a Twitch before then, but like I said, I'm going to be a little distracted here for the next couple weeks. So let's shoot for the beginning of next month. I'll work it out with Ryan. Obviously we can still contact, communicate. So any questions or little daily questions, just throw it up on Workplace or whatever, and I will continue to answer questions. If anyone has any real trouble, I'm more than willing to do a Skype with you and sit down and try to figure it out with you. But let's try to shoot to have a model that you want to look at and prep for print by the beginning of next month. And like I said, I'll figure out with Ryan, we'll get a day in the GOTA meeting, and then that way we won't have the lag. And then let's shoot for printing.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Siri's ignoring me. Oh, damn it. We had the red book name. Tony and I were talking about him just the other night. Shit. Okay. All right. Mike, remind me next week. Okay? I've got next week's going to be chaos. Remind me in 2 weeks. Okay? Because I have a bunch of stuff coming in next week that I have to sort out. And I have to prep some stuff for die stamping for this job. So remind me with that list in 2 weeks. Didn't we just go through that? You guys. I'm sorry. You should. The YouTube seems to be clean, I guess. So you should be able to get it on the recording. Yeah. So I think that's it. Mike, talk to me in 2 weeks. And because going in prepping for the ZBrush Master presentation, or it's ZBrush Master, whatever the hell it's called, you know what I'm talking about. I have to pull a lot of models. So what I'll do is I'll consolidate in a lot of the cutters and stuff are in that one. So give me 2 weeks. Let me go through. I have to completely reset up the recording studio. I have to sort through models for those presentations anyway. So let's talk in 2 weeks, and then I'll go from that. Let's plan for a revisit at the beginning of next month, right? And then just stay in touch on Workplace, and I'll keep everyone informed about what's happening. Monday nights, I'll still be here on Monday nights. So if anyone has any questions, know that Monday nights are always a place where you know where I'll be in front of a machine answering questions. And get hat. Yes, actually, thank you. I actually do need to get half and half. Mine, I believe that I'm on the 30th of this month. My presentation's on the 30th. And I think that we'll be going over the line of jewelry that I've been designing with Edward, so people can kind of see the iteration process, what it takes to actually do a line of jewelry. And then I'll do, obviously the cutter demos and things like that on that. And we'll obviously go over my ass backwards way of sculpting. I've watched all these and I really, dude, I don't think no one does my high res with all my subdivision level. I don't know why, because I see that they're working on something, and I'm like, well, that wouldn't have been a problem if you had your subdivision levels. So I guess we will go through that as well. Yeah, it was a good one. Actually, all of them have been really informative. It's so fascinating to see how people are doing stuff. And it's really funny, at the end of the day, it winds up that most of them don't need, resolution. They're not getting the model sizes that I'm getting. Now, I mean, they may have 100 million poly model, but they're doing it in 150 pieces. Or how I teach, you can have a hand, you might have 3 to 5 different parts, but some of the creatures, and especially he was just doing it. I can't remember anyone's name. I suck at this game. But he was doing the hard surface one, and I mean, every little ding and dingling ding and was all, every single one of those things is a separate part. And it's just like, holy hell, you try to merge all that back together and get it to where you're going to get that into one shell. There's going to be a lot of redoing on that one. Sid, years and years of work, honestly. I think it comes down to an awareness of your part. Oh, I did want to show you guys one thing because I didn't show it to I think it was after I turned the recording on, but I can't remember who was asking the question. Here, hold on. Let's but let's just go to this guy. There's a really cool program called Phi Matrix. And this has to do kind of with how do you know when you're done, right? Or how do you tune something, right? So this is that thing I was building around the one opal. And so let us turn our stone off here for a second. And this is something that I'm trying to work out where I can get it included in the when you join my website. This is one of the things I want you guys to just be able to get, but we have to figure out how I would pay for them. Like if I have X amount of tickets, I give you guys tickets, and then how it works, whatever. So I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, Marco, thanks. That model he has, it's got to be 100. He said it was like 140 subtools, and that was just the one part. It wasn't like the whole thing. And I'm just like, oh wow, that's a lot. I try to keep it a shell for the most part as we go along. But how do you know when you're done, right? Let's say we're looking at this. There's this lovely program called Phi Matrix, not pi. It is Phi. Phi is the Fibonacci set. It's the golden ratio, right? Where are you? There we go. And what it does is it gives you these, and then it gives you this grid. And the grid is based on the gold. Doesn't this get... So you can do a Fibonacci grid. You can choose how many you have going. So let's do left and right. And then instead of top, let's do bottom, because this is going to be kind of bottom heavy. See, there's no way to make that bigger. So you grab your grid. And no matter how you move this around, it stays to its proportions, right? So these are the mathematic algorithms of Phi, which is the whole golden ratio stuff. And so this is a place where you can start to identify how you're breaking your lines up. And you can see that, you can change how many you have. You can do top and bottom. And you'll start to notice that in all reality, things start to line up. And I did not put this on, right? I just did this. And you can see that our spaces are pretty close, right? This blank space is pretty close to that. That is pretty close to that. You can see how your proportion, hold on, top and bottom. There we go. You can start to see where your proportional breakup is. And if you add more lines, it just gives you a tighter hit, right? And so as you're going along, if you're really kind of stuck and you're not real happy with where it is, this is a pretty good way of coming in and figuring out, and because the monkey likes these proportions. The lizard brain likes these proportions. These are sort of the mathematical foundational root of the universe really is math. And these proportions are pretty real. I mean, I showed you the thing about us liking, the brain liking symmetry. And the brain also likes these proportions, the rule of thirds, and they're real. The brain really likes things that tie into those. So, this is a way that you can easily come back in and, you can just push your, you can change it to get it to where it's tied to your grid. So if you're having problems with the proportions of a part and you're not happy with it and you can't figure out why, well, this is always a good way of being able to come in, look at it, and often it's just realign that point. That's where it's at. It's not something that you need to really worry about. But, if the lizard brain's looking for something, you can bring this out to here. And your brain really does look for these proportions. And so this is an easy way of just going through and finding where those things are. Now, this also has, this has tons of different, it has, there are all kinds of triangles, pentagons, diagonals, right? And these are mathematic formulas, and you can see that, in all reality, we're pretty close. So, okay, let's move that around. Let's drag that around. So this is an interesting way of looking at your objects where the proportions are lying. Are they lying well? Are they, and it does, it's not a joke. Your brain likes this, right? And that's why you can take, art and the golden ratio, and they really do line up. And it's not exacting, right? You're there, so roughly in the middle there, right? We're just kind of teasing proportions into things. So it's an interesting way of viewing an object. You can do it one direction. See, rule of thirds. And, no matter how you drag it, it's going to stay in proportion. And you'll eventually wind up seeing that in all reality, a lot of this stuff pans out to these proportions. And it's just a really good way to come back in and kind of look at what you're doing in these classical proportional relationships. So if you're getting close and you're having a hard time figuring out, something's just not right, I find lay the grid on and then you just move it, and now you're tied to thirds or the Fibonacci, and it's a good way to kind of look at the proportions of your object. And he actually has a lot of books and writings on it, on the golden ratio and its applications. It's fascinating stuff. It's interesting. I assume I have the pro version. This is the other one that they're talking about. I downloaded a demo. I've never really seen it. Where is it? Golden ratio design. Let's see what it does. So, nope, that's not what we were trying to do, is it? We want to go. No. I guess you just file through it. angles. That's interesting. So it's a little bit more of a, but it's always fascinating when you start going through these and you start to realize that, oh, actually I do, I mean, if you look at our angle here, our angle proportion, you know, you're staying within those parameters. It's always fascinating to see, you know, where it stands as far as the actual ratios of this stuff. I guess we just tap through them. Interesting. See, like that focal point is almost on, right? And these are just, you know, you can see we're pretty close. I don't know how you turn them off though. Oh, I guess, there we go. It's always fascinating to see how it plays out. I'm not sure. Aspect ratio. Oh, I guess you can preset them in so you can, while you're working, you can just, they're like preset grids or something. Who knew? All right, well, I mean, that's something to think about. Yeah, exactly. But Sid, you know, so much of it really comes down to, I scan rocks all the time, yeah. And actually, that's the one. I have not been excited for a phone upgrade, but supposedly the next phone will have the true depth camera in the back, so you can actually scan with your phone. And it may not be super tight. It may not be super exacting, but it's enough to use as a base model for your stone. But yeah, scanning stones is a great way of being able to build around them. This isn't a scan of a stone, but this is a measurement of the stone, and then from the images, I just kind of blew it up, and you know, I just push these into place so it's roughly the shape of the stone. It's pretty darn close, right? And if I could scan it, that would be much better. But stone scanners are expensive. I think a cheap one's like 12 grand. Sadly, I do not count as an education. It's high school, colleges, and you know, yeah. But if I buy them in bulk, I can get it a little cheaper. I just have to. I sat down, I chatted with him the other day, and I just have to kind of sort it out. Once again, it's tons of stuff. Alrighty. Hold on. We need. Take this one down just in case. Where's my Gmail? No, this one. So that is the Formlabs discount code. Yeah, so let me kind of wrap my head around what's going on. Let's stay in touch on the, obviously we'll stay in touch on Workspace. If anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You know, I'll answer as soon as I can. And yeah, I think we are, yeah. Any last questions? Oh yeah. Nice stuff. What is hers? One second. I think Ceridime, yeah. She does some pretty fabulous. She's a friend of our friends. But she does some pretty spectacular wire wrap jewelry too. It's interesting. She's gotten into more cast pieces recently. I don't think her cast pieces are quite as compelling as her wire wrap stuff, but that's a Saul Bell. Savan Bukac. He does some really cool stuff. Alrighty. Of course. And once again, just make sure that we stay in touch on Workspace. Mike should remind me of that stuff in a couple weeks. And then I will try to get us a time slot for what is it? A GoToMeeting. And then we'll look at stuff, prep, and try to print. Okay? Okay, it was wonderful. You guys were a killer group. It was nice. And like I said, stay on Workspace. Keep asking questions. You're not being abandoned. Okay? Okie dokie, artichoke. We will, like I said, I'll stay, I'll obviously post and stuff and answer questions. But look for something towards the end of the month. I'll give you guys ideas of what the days are and all of that, and keep you updated on the printer thing. Well, it's not that sad. You act like you're not going to harass me on Workspace? Really? And then obviously you can harass me on Mondays. So just consider it a Monday late class, okay? All right, kind and gentle folk. I'm out, I think. Let's try this, right? Where is it? There it is.